He discovered a game so addictive it could bring down an empire, but to win it, he had to bet his life against the KGB, a corrupt media mogul, and the Soviet Union itself. This is the unbelievable true story of the battle for Tetris. Our story begins in 1988 at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Here we meet Henk Rogers, a Dutch game designer living in Japan, desperately trying to sell the rights to his own game, Go. But despite his best efforts, the game isn't landing. Even his own sales girl is more interested in the booth next door. Annoyed, Henk marches over to retrieve her, only to find her completely captivated by a strange new game. A man at the booth representing a company called Mirasoft introduces it. The game is called Tetris, a bizarre name, a combination of the Greek word for four, tetra, and the inventor's favorite sport, tennis. Intrigued and a bit skeptical, Henk decides to give it a try. He picks up the controller, and in that moment, his life changes forever. As the simple, elegant blocks fall into place, Henk sees not just a game, but poetry, a magical synchronicity of art and math. He recognizes it instantly. This is the perfect game. He immediately asks about the rights, and is told Mirasoft controls everything, worldwide, on all platforms. Without hesitation, Henk makes a high-stakes gamble. He uses the money he owes the bank for his failed game to buy the Japanese rights for PC, console, and arcade. His banker is stunned. He took a loan for one failed game only to buy another from a country with no video game business, the Soviet Union. But to understand the chaos that's about to unfold, we must go back 4 years, to the heart of the Iron Curtain. This is Alexei Pajitnov, by day, a programmer for the Soviet Computer Science Center, by night, an inventor of games for fun. Working on a primitive Electronica 60 computer with no graphics card, he created his falling blocks using nothing but brackets. He and his friends made the game IBM compatible, and it spread like wildfire across Moscow on floppy disks. But this was the Soviet Union, nothing gets out. It would take an entrepreneur to monetize it. Enter player 3, Robert Stein, a shrewd London-based operator who scours Eastern Europe for cheap games to resell in the West. After discovering Tetris in Hungary, Stein relentlessly faxes Alexei's department, desperate to license the game. His persistence annoys the Soviet officials, but Alexei sees an opportunity. He gets permission from ELOG, the state-run entity for software export, to make a deal. A fax is sent, and a deal is struck, but the vague terms of this deal will soon become the source of an international conflict. With a flimsy contract in hand, Stein flies back to London to meet his next player, Robert Maxwell, the billionaire media tycoon behind Mirasoft. Maxwell, a man known for paying his debts, seems like a solid partner. He introduces his son, Kevin Maxwell, the CEO of Mirasoft. Kevin, arrogant and dismissive, immediately establishes a power dynamic, insisting on being called Mr. Maxwell. They celebrate securing what they believe are the complete rights to the first computer game to ever leave the Iron Curtain. Maxwell Tsar boasts of his friendship with Gorbachev and lays out a grand vision to license Tetris across every conceivable platform. This chain of dubious deals and powerful players sets the stage for Henk's journey. Back in Japan, Henk's vision is bigger than just a quick payday. He refuses a $500,000 buyout from Nintendo, shocking his banker. Instead, he proposes that his company, Bullet Proof Software, publish the game for them. He argues that great partners make great products, like Mario and Luigi or Zelda and Link. Nintendo's notoriously guarded president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, is swayed. They agree, but instead of giving Henk money, they ask him for $3 million to manufacture the cartridges and arcade machines. To fund this massive undertaking, Henk must go back to his banker and put everything on the line, including his family's home as collateral. His wife, Akemi, is rightfully terrified. This was not the deal he promised. But Henk is a pioneer. And pioneers have to bet the house to win. The side of their own daughter, Maya, completely engrossed in the game, convinces them it is a risk they have to take. They are all in. With the funding secured, Bullet Proof Software celebrates becoming a major publisher, but their victory is short-lived. A call comes from Kevin Maxwell. He coldly informs Henk that Mirasoft has already licensed the Japanese arcade rights to Sega, a deal done behind his back. When Henk protests, citing their contract, Kevin reveals he hasn't even signed his end yet, leaving Henk with no legal standing. Stripped of the lucrative arcade rights, Henk faces financial ruin. He's forced to go back to Nintendo, tail between his legs. He compares his situation to a video game, telling Yamauchi that Kevin Maxwell pulled a piranha plant on him, and he desperately needs a mushroom to stay alive. He asks for an advance on his future royalties. Instead of cash, Nintendo gives him an invitation to their American headquarters in Seattle to see something top secret. Henk says a difficult goodbye to his family, promising his daughter he'll be back for her concert, a promise that will be hard to keep. In Seattle, Henk is led into Nintendo of America's inner sanctum. After signing an NDA, they reveal their secret weapon. It's a portable device with a monochrome screen, 30 hours of battery life, and a revolutionary concept. It is called the Game Boy. Nintendo plans to bundle it with their biggest brand Mario, but as Hank hosts the device, a brilliant idea strikes him. He quickly ports a rough version of Tetris onto the Game Boy and makes his pitch. If you want to sell Game Boys to little kids, package it with Mario. But if you want to sell millions of Game Boys to everyone, package it with Tetris. The Nintendo executives are sold. The new mission is clear. Secure the handheld rights for Tetris, no matter the cost. Hank flies to London to confront the Maxwells. He walks into a meeting between Robert and Kevin Maxwell and the original middleman, Robert Stein. He boldly offers to buy the worldwide handheld rights on the spot. The Maxwells, sensing a new market they hadn't considered, feign control. They confirm that Stein holds all the rights, including handheld. But it's a lie. After dismissing Hank, Kevin confronts Stein, revealing their own precarious financial situation. It turns out the Maxwell empire is built on a house of cards, propped up by stolen employee pension funds. They desperately need the cash cow that Tetris represents. Outside, Hank corners Stein, who admits the rights situation is complicated. Hank offers him $25,000 to secure the handheld rights for him. But the web of deceit grows even more tangled. Hank gets a call from Nintendo. Stein is trying to sell the handheld rights to their rival, Atari, for $100,000. Furious, Kevin Maxwell confronts Stein, who defends himself by pointing out Microsoft has yet to pay him any royalties. Kevin cuts ties with him, deciding to negotiate directly with the Russians. Realizing he is being cut out by everyone, Hank makes a fateful decision. Screw it, he is going to Moscow. His colleagues at Nintendo warn him of the dangers. Going to the Soviet Union on a tourist visa to conduct business is a felony. Ilorg is likely a KGB front. If he goes, they can't protect him. Hank doesn't care. He'll take his chances. He arrives in a cold gray Moscow, a world away from the neon lights of Tokyo. At the border, his unusual travel history immediately raises suspicion. The city is bleak. Long lines for basic goods, a palpable sense of oppression. He finds his way to Ilorg, the imposing government building that holds the key to his future. He is met by Nikolai Belikov, the head of Ilorg. Hank proudly presents his Nintendo version of Tetris, but Belikov is not impressed. He is furious. He declares that Ilorg never licensed video game rights to anyone, only the rights for personal computers. He accuses Hank of selling a pirated, illegal copy. Hank is stunned. His entire business, his family's home, is staked on rights he is now being told he never had. As he leaves, he is cornered by a sinister man who introduces himself as Valentin Trifonov, a high-ranking member of the Communist Party. He warns Hank to go home. The next day, Hank returns to Ilorg. Belikov is still hostile, calling him a liar and a thief. But he also introduces Hank to the man himself, Alexei Pajitnov, the inventor. Meanwhile, Trifonov is welcoming another player to Moscow, Kevin Maxwell, who has come to secure the rights for Microsoft through his father's political connections. During a break, Hank finds Alexei and expresses his admiration for the game, promising to make him a millionaire. Alexei's response is a stark reminder of the world they're in. I do not have right to receive money from my game. It is communism. Back in the meeting, Hank begins to unravel the truth. He explains the chain of licensing and realizes the confusion lies in the definition of a computer. A video game console is not a personal computer. Stein had exploited this ambiguity. A shocking new revelation emerges. Ilorg never sold the arcade rights to anyone. This means Microsoft and Sega's arcade versions are completely illegal. Stein had stolen those rights outright. That evening, despite the rules against fraternizing with foreigners, Alexei invites Hank to his home. It is a risky move, but a bond is forming. In Alexei's cramped apartment, they connect not as businessmen, but as programmers and game lovers, talking Pascal and assembler. Hank plays the original version of Tetris and suggests an improvement, allowing players to clear up to 4 lines at once for a bigger bonus, a Tetris. The two men, from opposite ends of the world, collaborate, their shared passion bridging the political divide. Alexei rediscovers the joy of creation. Later, Alexei takes Hank to an underground club, a secret hub of counterculture, where young Muscovites dream of freedom, Levi's jeans, and Coca-Cola. It's a vibrant, hopeful world, starkly contrasting with the grey oppression outside. For a moment, they are just two friends, celebrating the idea that good ideas have no borders. But the KGB is always watching. While Hank is in Moscow, agents visit his wife in Tokyo, issuing a veiled threat for him to come home. Trifonov's men trash Hank's hotel room and assault him. He is a foreigner trying to buy Russian property, and to the hardliners, that is treason. Trifonov's intimidation tactics extend to Alexei, subtly threatening his family by bringing up the grim fate of his grandfather. Hank finally gets a call through to his wife, learning about the threats against her. He realizes the danger they are all in. The game has become deadly serious. Armed with this new understanding, Hank confronts Belikov again. He gives him an honest offer, $25,000 up front, all the money he has left, plus a generous royalty per unit sold. He estimates sales of 20 million units, which would mean $5 million for the Soviet state. It's a deal based on future success, a bet on the game's power. Meanwhile, Kevin Maxwell, backed by Trifonov, presents his own offer, a $2 million encyclopedia deal with no cash and no royalties. Belikov, however, is now playing his own game. He tells Maxwell that times are changing and a deal with no real money looks suspicious. Pressured, Kevin unofficially offers $1 million in cash. Belikov draws up a letter of intent. Mirosov gets the rights if they wire the money in 1 week. But, as he walks Maxwell out, Belikov secretly gives Hank a similar letter of intent. He is playing both sides, giving his country the best possible chance. Then, he drops a bombshell by getting Stein to sign a new contract for arcade rights. Belikov cleverly redefined computer, making the original video game rights null and void. The worldwide video game rights are back on the table. Belikov urges Hank to go home and return with a real offer from Nintendo. In a clandestine meeting, Alexei reveals the final piece of the puzzle. The man pulling the strings, the one threatening them all, is Trifonov, and Sasha, his translator, is a KGB agent spying on him. He urges Hank to flee. As Hank rushes to the airport, the Maxwells, confident in their deal, are celebrating, but their empire is about to crumble. Robert Maxwell has no intention of paying the $1 million. Back in London, Kevin discovers the horrifying truth. The company is broke. His father has stolen everything. Back in Tokyo, Hank is defeated. Nintendo calls to tell him they are going with Microsoft. He has lost everything, his business, his house, and nearly his family. But then, a lifeline. A fax arrives from Moscow. It is from Alexei. He has risked everything to tell Hank that Microsoft's letter of intent has expired. The rights are still available. Reinvigorated, Hank storms into Nintendo headquarters. He proves that not only are the handheld rights available, but Microsoft and Atari never had any video game rights to begin with. It has all been a colossal fraud. Convinced, the Nintendo execs agree to one final, desperate gambit. They will fly to Moscow with Hank and their checkbook. As they prepare, Trifonov, learning of their return, orders Alexei's family to be evicted, a final cruel act of intimidation. The final showdown takes place at Elorg. Nintendo offers $5 million cash, plus royalties. Just then, Robert Maxwell himself storms in. He has flown to Moscow and met with Gorbachev, trying to leverage political power to usurp the deal. He offers his encyclopedia exchange again. But Gorbachev, embracing change, refuses to intervene. The world is changing, and the Soviet Union will not be left behind. The deadline for Maxwell's $1 million payment ticks down. It becomes clear, he doesn't have the money, he is bankrupt. The bluff has been called. Belikov signs the contract with Nintendo. Hank has won, but Belikov gives him a stark warning. They are not safe until they leave Moscow. They must run. As they race to the airport, they are pursued by a furious Trifonov and his KGB agents. The escape turns into a real-life video game, a frantic car chase through the streets of Moscow. They make it to the airport just in time. As they pass through customs, Alexei says his goodbyes, urging Hank to go. Trifonov and his men arrive, but they are too late. As Hank's plane takes off, Trifonov is stopped on the tarmac. It's Sasha. In a final twist, she arrests her corrupt superior on the orders of Gorbachev himself. Justice, in its own Soviet way, is served. Hank returns to his family a hero. The Game Boy, bundled with Tetris, becomes a global phenomenon, selling hundreds of millions of units. The Maxwell empire collapses under the weight of its own corruption. The Soviet Union itself dissolves, its red flag lowered for the last time. And in the end, Hank keeps his most important promise. He brings Alexei and his family to America, where they co-found the Tetris company. Two men from different worlds, united by a perfect game who prove that good ideas have no borders. And even in a world of blocks, you can build a better future.